Hello, everyone, dear listeners and dear viewers. Welcome to the Priceless News. Today, we're presenting to you a new book. My name is Michael Sechen and I'm your host. We're talking to Dr. Arno Steen Andreasen about his new book, Desiring God, Meditations for the Gay Man and Other Edgy People, which is coming out soon. But I don't have to talk about it because Arno is with me. Hello, Arno.
Hi, good to see you.
Thank you for being with us today and sharing this exciting news about a new book that is coming out. What caught my interest and that I want to ask you right in the beginning is in the title, you say, for all other edgy people. Well, it says, and other edgy people. So what does this mean?
Well, it was kind of trying to saying for people on the edge, people on the margins of society. So it's a bit of play on words. But I thought again that it's important that our message, if a Christian message needs to be for all. If the Christian message is always just for the majority, we have an issue. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with all these new theologies coming up, no matter if it is queer theology or Palestinian theology or liberation theology or Dalit theology or feminist theology. What we are really saying is the normal theology has been marginalizing an awful lot of people. So it's no longer good news. And what my search has been since I became a Christian was, what does an inclusive good news message look like that is not just for whoever is in the majority right now or the flavor of the month? And that's why I'm doing this as well in this title, trying to say, well, actually, let's look at a kind of a working theology or a view of the Bible or a view of God where all those who feel on the edge for some kind of reason can identify with and also hopefully feel included in God's love.
So why this book? What was your vision, motivation, longing when you started writing it?
Oh, it was my way to survive. I needed to find a way to survive after coming out, after losing my international ministry, losing my home. I had to move country. And I needed to find God in all this. I needed to make sense of where is God when you're suffering? Where is God when life is not just going as you've planned? And I started to say, I need to find ways to identify with something in the Bible. I had researched first to write a book called The Many Colors of Love, which I wanted to kind of be a way of explaining to the church world, but especially the evangelical wing of the church, why God is an inclusive God for LGBT+, but also for other groups. But I could feel I was so angry that I was not ready to write it. I did false starts again and again, and it just did not work out. And then one day I thought, well, what about if I identify myself in this text? How is this? And suddenly I just got text after text coming to my mind. And I thought, I really need to dig into these Bible texts and passages and just to see, how would that feel for me? Is there hope in this text for me? Because when I've been training pastors, and I was leading an alternative pastor seminary and leadership seminary for 15 years in the UK, and part of what we always said to people, when it comes to something difficult, first you look at the overall view of the Bible, then you look at what Jesus was saying, Jesus saying first, overall book in the Bible, and then you look at the few difficult texts. And I suddenly thought, in the LGBT world, we've kept on just looking at the difficult 6-7 verses. But actually, we've lost Jesus in this, and we've lost the whole revelation of the book. And if these things do not come together, we have an issue in how we make conclusions. So I thought, I've been doing this about women's ministry and lots of other things. Why have I not done it about my own life and what is relevant to me? So I ended up thinking, let me tell stories. Let me tell stories about my life, but at the same time, in a time where I did not have the conclusions. It was really, each chapter has to do with a step of faith, because the answers were not there. I started again to write on some of the things where I did not just have a flat or job or church to go to. I started writing some of these things. I was just marching up and down the streets of Copenhagen 2, 3, 4 hours a day, just proclaiming that I looked to the hills and where shall my help come from? And thinking, no, my help comes from the Lord. I'm thinking, Yes, but I have to apply for jobs. So my hope is in that business or that organization. No, come back to God. And I just prayed that for hours and hours every day. And just was just desperate and could not make ends meet in any way. So this became my book of survival. I also call it my book of lamentations, because it's also my book of emotion, my book of injustice. I try not to be too angry in some of the situations where I could be really, really angry. But it was really a matter of identifying myself and coming back to the Bible in a way and seeing the bigger picture, because I've been eaten up by a few passages.
Well, I have to tell you that you did a great job, because I didn't have the impression of your anger. But however, I really liked the way your hurting came through, and your personal, as you said, lamentations, but also hope in all of this, which, I really liked and enjoyed, you in it, discovering you and getting to also know you and then connect to what you are saying through your experiences. So thank you for that. I enjoyed reading it, definitely. So I have to ask you, for our female part of viewers and maybe even those who are gender neutral, why did you decide to call it For the Gay Man, to put it in the title?
Simply to be honest, I knew that it would not be, in a way, politically correct to do, but I thought this is a very male response to a situation. So I have to be honest that I'm not trying to, I did not look for trans rights in the Bible. I did not look for how it was to be bisexual or whatever. I looked for my survival. And then I hope that in looking for my survival in faith and in life, that some of it would also, as I say, inspire other edgy people. But I wanted to be honest and say, I do not come from another perspective. Right now, was it my suffering as a gay man? And as a gay man, I needed to find a way to survive. And I thought, I have to be honest about that, even though it looks funny, or it could look like, oh, now the gay men again want to control the world and all this. But actually, it was just being honest about my vulnerability. I came to the Bible as a gay man and needed to find hope.
That's what I kind of thought, but I really wanted to ask, because people can get discouraged, but I want to encourage everyone that even though it is from a gay man's perspective, I think that other people can find parts that can be very helpful and where they can connect with your stories. But I can see what you're saying, that it is from your experience as a gay man, and especially the figures that you talk about, about Stephen, about Paul and Peter, where you even have this interesting moments of being them in your stories, which I enjoyed very much. It was actually quite interesting to read like a different perspective even on these people. So I won't give up too much, but I enjoyed this parts very much. And there I understand what you're saying, and that it was important for you to respect others, that they know that at this point it is your journey, it's your struggle with faith and your everyday as a gay man.
But at the same time, exactly, because I am looking at different texts about inclusion. You mentioned Stephen, for instance, the whole thing of being on fire for God. I've got 2 chapters about that, where both chapters is very much about including all the people that church and society often do not want to include. And that is LGBT+, but it's also many other groups. And that's why I hope in the whole thing of also for other edgy people, again, I'm saying, well, actually, when we get that understanding that the heart of God is for people, God is not for the remnant, the small group that is so holier than thou and has totally rejected the world, but actually God is for this world that he loved so much, he gave his life for it. Actually, it is for all of us. We are invited to the banquet of God. We are, with all our diversity, with all our weird and wonderful, we are all invited. And I hope that many people can identify with that actually they are invited too, because it's all about actually our view of God. So in many ways, is what had to help me in writing it and meditating was, I need a new view of God.
Yes. And now I have to ask, it's maybe a little bit provocative. If you say afterwards, I don't want this in this podcast, I will take it out. But, it almost seemed to me when you take Stephen as an example, it seems like, but it can be also like the influence of my experience of church and what I was taught. Like you're saying, suffering is good. We should suffer for God. Like, what were you trying to say with it? I mean, maybe you did try to say the same thing, but
first of all, I do think we should suffer for God, but we will suffer for God. Because if you are this radical as a person like Stephen, then society will not like you. Church will not like you. So there are consequences for living radical lives. So I'm not kind of pursuing suffering, but I think suffering at different times in our lives will be the consequence of living a more radical life. And with Stephen, I think it was much more for me contrasting Paul's life with Stephen's life. Paul was running around, throwing Christians in prison or whatever, being really on fire for God, but boy, was it a negative fire. And then you got Stephen doing all these beautiful acts of power and ministry into hurting people's lives. And both were doing works for God in their minds. But actually what I wanted to say was, look at what the Holy Spirit is doing. It is not letting Paul win. There will be these mustard seed of hope, like Stephen or like Philip and others that will come out on it. And some of them will suffer as a consequence. And some will not in the same level as Stephen, of course, but there will sometimes be a consequence because the powers to be do not like when we challenge them. So I do believe as Christians that we will suffer in different ways, but not just, we can't have prayers in school and all this other rubbish. I think it's to do much more with when we do live radically loving, including other people, people will misunderstand you and people will not always like what you're doing. I work with the homeless every day now. And especially with migrants, I live in a culture where we're strongly against migrants. So many ways, in one way, people think, Arno is doing good works. At the same time, you're doing good works by migrants. We don't want them in the country. Our government is saying, we do not want these people in the country. I even have people from authority saying to me, we don't want you to do a good job, Arno, because then maybe more will come. So it's better to treat people badly than to treat people as created in the image of God. So that's really what I want to say. So it's not because I say we will all end up like Stephen, even though a radical life, we will take up our cross and carry it daily, because there will be some suffering on our way, because people will definitely not like what you and I will be doing.
So if you're doing something that is, let's say, different, it's just what happens. You're getting the backlash.
But wasn't that why Jesus died? Jesus challenged the authorities of the social church and the synagogue and the temple, and he went against the Roman Empire. When you start to take the pillars away under the power structures, they get upset. They do not want to have their authority and their position challenged. So they had to get rid of him because he was a challenge. There was this alternative movement. Suddenly you didn't have to pay taxes to the temple to get healed. Suddenly you didn't have to do things because he just healed them. There was this whole new structure where he was undermining, and therefore he had to die. So we often, as a society of structures, we want good things to stop.
Thank you for answering this question. And what is your hope for this book?
I have two target groups for the book. One is the LGBT person who, mainly Christian LGBT person who's struggling with their faith. Is there hope for me? Is God for me, or is it just a one-way ticket to hell? So I hope that for some, that my story, and also looking at the Bible, it's not just a biography, but it is a biography mirrored in Bible texts, that will help some people. I hope that some of the Christians who've just heard, oh, this is a bad thing, but actually is open to explore. Maybe they know somebody in the church that's LGBT, or, or somebody in their family and others, and thinking, well, actually, it looks like they have a good faith, but I keep on being told they're deceived or something else. How do I handle this? And to give them an experience that when you look at the big picture of the Bible, God is an inclusive God for LGBT plus and many other groups. And I hope that'll help them to think, maybe this is actually okay. So I hope some people survive in the faith, because many people don't. But I hope some will survive because of the book, and I hope some others will actually take a stand, maybe become real allies for us as well, but actually become much more inclusive themselves because they feel safe in actually we do have a loving God that's radically loving of all people.
So for all the listeners and viewers who would like to buy a copy of your book, what would be the best way to do that? And is there maybe a way that is better, that is contributing more to you, that where is coming back benefiting you better?
Not really, because I don't have a lot of books here. All books it's called print on demand, so they're being done as people order them by the different publishing houses. So it makes no difference. What I would say is it comes out as paperback and as an ebook. And the ebook is extremely cheap. I don't know in pounds and euros, but I know it was $3. So it'd be about €3 or something like that. So it is extremely cheap to actually have a chance to see, is this something for me? Is it worth a gift to somebody? Because, it is a coffee in a coffee shop, kind of price. So for people to say, have a go at it, see, taste and see, is this something that's helpful for you or for somebody else? And if they really like it, then they can buy the paperback if that's nice and they like to underline, just like I always do with my books, as you can see. But actually, that's not a specific way. But otherwise, again, if they like some of it, get in contact with me. Let's have a debate. Let's see if we can, through a Zoom or something else, maybe we can have a Bible study group where we can do a Zoom Bible study between, where, again, I can be part of sharing some of the thoughts, or where is God in all this and how can they move on. So it'll be really nice if little groups could gather maybe in some homes and we can do some discussions together. But otherwise, you can buy it on Amazon, in the local bookshop or whatever, because it's on the international kind of channels. But as I say, ebook or paperback, so both an option.
Thank you, Arno, for being with me today and sharing this great news about a new book that is not just about the clobber passages, but takes the Bible from an LGBT point of view and personal faith struggle to maybe another level, or at least a different place. So as you heard, you can get the book as an ebook, as a paperback, find it on Amazon or somewhere else. Thank you, Arno, for being with us. And for you listeners and viewers, I hope you will run to your local bookstores and get the new book from Arno. One question, when is this book coming out exactly?
It's coming out in November. I've not been given the publishing date yet, but I've been told it will come out in November.
Okay, as soon as it comes out, we will add it to our podcast description, so it will come out next month. So you can be the first ones to get this book and read it. So thank you everyone for being with us. As you heard, you can acquire the book in November on Amazon or your local bookstores. Thank you for being with us, for listening and watching. See you soon. Bye.